The cafe was alive with the clinking of coffee cups, the soft hum of afternoon chatter, and the sunlight pouring through the tall windows like liquid gold. But in the middle of that warm scene sat a girl who looked like she had been forgotten by the world. Her name was Mira Thompson. She sat at the corner table, her trembling fingers tracing the rim of her untouched cappuccino, her eyes flicking toward the door every few seconds. She was waiting for a man she'd never met, a man who was supposed to be her first blind date in years, but that man never came. Or rather, he came, took one look at her, noticed the small hearing aid tucked behind her ear, and turned right back around. He didn't say a word. He didn't even sit down. Mira saw him hesitate, look at her once, and then walk out as if she were invisible. Her lips parted in confusion. Her chest tightened. And though she couldn't hear the door closing, she felt it in her bones, the sound of rejection louder than any noise she could imagine. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion to change lives, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindly Tube. Because what happened next was more than just fate, it was a quiet miracle in daylight. I was sitting 2 tables away that afternoon. My name is Aaron Blake, and I wasn't supposed to be there either. My meeting had been cancelled last minute, and I stopped by the cafe to get some work done. But when I looked up from my laptop and saw that girl sitting there alone, eyes glassy but proud, I felt something twist inside me. People around her were whispering, some looking away awkwardly. The barista offered her a polite smile and walked off. And there she sat, clutching her purse like it was the only thing holding her together. I don't know what made me stand up. Maybe it was pity at first, or maybe something deeper. But I walked over, hesitated for a second, and then gently tapped the table. Mira looked up, startled. Her eyes were a stunning shade of hazel, filled with both confusion and courage. I spoke softly, not knowing if she could read lips. Mind if I sit? I asked. She blinked, studied my face carefully, and nodded slowly. Then she reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and typed something. She turned the screen toward me. I can read lips. But I prefer writing, it's easier. So that's how our first conversation began, not with sound, but with silence and typed words. I learned that Mira was 26, a painter, and had been deaf since she was 4. Her date had been set up by a friend who forgot to mention her condition, and this wasn't the first time someone had walked away. People get uncomfortable, she typed, her hands shaking slightly. They think I'm broken. That word hit me like a punch. Broken. It didn't fit her. Not the way her eyes lit up when she described her art. Not the way she laughed silently, with her whole body. There was something unspoken about her, something that made the world seem softer just by being near her. Over the next few minutes, I found myself doing something I rarely did. I listened without saying much. When she looked down, ashamed, I reached for my cup and said quietly, "You know, I think you'll make a different kind of wife one day." She looked up instantly, her eyes wide. I smiled. The kind who teaches a man that love isn't just what you hear, it's what you feel. Her lip quivered slightly. Then she smiled, a small, trembling smile that changed the air between us. That day, we talked until the sunlight shifted from gold to white. Before leaving, I asked if I could see her paintings. She hesitated, then nodded, scribbling an address on a napkin. "My studio," she wrote. "But it's small." The next afternoon, I found myself standing in front of a converted garage on a quiet suburban street. The walls were covered in soft pastels and bold brushstrokes, oceans, faces, skies filled with texture and emotion. Mira stood beside a large canvas, her hair tied back, her fingers covered in color. She didn't notice me at first. I just stood there watching, awed by the way she poured emotion into color. When she finally turned and saw me, her face brightened. I signed awkwardly, using the few words I remembered from an online video. "Hello. Beautiful." She laughed silently, touched her heart, and signed back "thank you." That day changed everything. We started meeting often, at her studio, at the cafe, in the park. I learned how to sign properly, not because she asked me to, but because I wanted to speak her language. Every gesture, every glance between us felt like something pure, something untouched by noise. But beneath all that beauty, I could sense her fear. She still believed she wasn't enough for the world. That no man would ever choose her completely. One evening, as the sky turned orange, she told me through signing that someone had once told her, "You're too quiet for love." I didn't know whether to be angry or heartbroken. I took her hands and signed back, "Love doesn't need sound. It just needs presence." Her eyes filled with tears she didn't let fall. She squeezed my hand, and for the first time, I realized what silence could mean. It wasn't emptiness. It was peace. Weeks turned into months. I watched her confidence grow again. She started exhibiting her paintings at small galleries. I helped her translate her artist's statements and even designed her portfolio website. We weren't officially dating, Mira was still cautious, but people began to notice the way we looked at each other. I didn't care what anyone thought. I knew what I felt every time she smiled at me, but every story has a storm before its calm. One evening, I invited her to a charity event for artists with disabilities. She was nervous but agreed. She wore a soft lavender dress, her hair loose, and for once she looked truly radiant. As we walked in, I noticed people staring, not cruelly, but curiously. Some whispered when she used sign language. One man, a gallery owner, spoke to me directly, ignoring her completely. "You're Aaron Blake, right? I've seen your architecture work. Impressive. And your friend, she's your projects artist?" I looked at him steadily. "She's my inspiration," I said, loud enough for others to hear. Mira didn't catch every word, but she understood the tone. She smiled faintly, though I could tell it stung her that the world still didn't fully see her. Later that night, as we drove home, she typed on her phone, "You don't have to defend me, Aaron. I'm used to it." I looked at her, pain twisting my chest. "Maybe that's the problem," I said softly. "You shouldn't have to be." A week later, I got a job offer abroad. A 2-year architectural project in Singapore. It was my dream job. But as soon as I read the letter, my heart sank. How could I leave her? How could I walk away from someone who made silence feel like music? When I told her, she didn't say anything. She just nodded, smiled faintly, and wrote, "You should go. You deserve it." The day I was supposed to leave, I found a small wrapped canvas outside my apartment door. No note, no name. Just her initials on the corner, MT. I tore the paper open and froze. It was a painting of two hands reaching for each other across a blurred sea, one hand in vivid color, the other fading into white. The title written below read, "Even if you go, I'll still feel you." I didn't go that night. I drove to her studio in the pouring rain. She was there, painting under dim light, lost in her world. I stood in the doorway, drenched, heart pounding. She turned, startled. Before she could reach for her phone, I walked straight up to her, took her paint-covered hands, and signed clumsily but clearly, "I don't want to go. I want to stay with you." Her eyes widened. She shook her head, tears falling silently. "Why?" She signed. I smiled through the rain. "Because," I said slowly, letting her read my lips, "you'll make a different kind of wife. The kind who teaches me what love really means." She broke down, crying into my chest, her small hands clutching my soaked shirt. I held her like I never wanted to let go. The studio light flickered, the rain softened, and in that moment, we both knew something had changed forever. Months later, Myra's artwork was featured in a national exhibit under the title Silent Light. I stood beside her as people admired her work, many unaware that the woman beside them couldn't hear their praises. But I didn't need them to. Because I could see the pride in her smile, the grace in her posture, the strength she never realized she had all along. When someone asked her about her inspiration, she turned to me, smiled, and signed for the audience interpreter to translate. It started the day someone saw me not as deaf, but as whole, and in that sunlit room, surrounded by her art and our journey, I realized that sometimes the most beautiful love stories don't start with fireworks or music, they start with quiet understanding. With a single act of kindness that echoes louder than words ever could. If this story touched your heart today, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindly Tube. Your support helps us share more real stories that remind the world kindness is never silent. Speech balloon special request. Comment below. Love doesn't need sound, only heart. If you believe that every soul deserves to be heard, even in silence. The end.